Jaylen Brown responded when asked about re-signing with Boston long-term. Okay? Listen to this quote, guys. I don't know. Jay, I want you to give me the translation when we're done with this. As long as I'm needed, it's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time and how I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense. But I'll stay where I'm wanted. I'll stay where I'm needed and treated correct. Now, Brown's under contract for one more year after this season. He'd become an unrestricted free agent in 2024. Murdoch asked Brown about his desire to continue to play alongside Tatum. He did not give a definitive answer. Listen to this. I just enjoy the time that you have now. If it's your whole career, it's your whole career. If it's not, it's not. Some of the greatest players of all time haven't finished with their organization. Michael Jordan retired a Wizard. As much as we like it here and enjoy being here, you see where life takes you. You see how the process goes. All you really do is focus on what's in front of you right now, to be honest. But I don't really know or want to answer that question because that type of stuff makes Celtics fans speculate and go crazy, especially right now. I'll just say we'll get there when we get there.
That, to me, is Jaylen Brown telling the world that he feels like he's underappreciated. Now, look, man, I've never been a part of this whole camp a couple of years ago that they're saying that there's no way that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum could work. I thought they could work, and they have made deep runs in the playoffs. They have been to the NBA Finals. But I feel like things are coming to a head right now. I said this earlier. Jaylen Brown is not cocky. He's confident. And he is extremely aware and willing to talk about things that he's aware about. I think it's one of the challenges that when Kyrie was on this team, they saw things that they wanted to speak about, and people thought that was Kyrie's influence on Jaylen when it's actually just who Jaylen Brown is as a person. Jason Tatum is a prolific player. Jaylen Brown this year, I think, has been a better player at times more so than Jason Tatum. I'm okay with saying that. Jason Tatum was in the MVP conversation, but once again, I think people think Boston Celtics, they think Jason Tatum. And when all this stuff happened with Kevin Durant, when there were rumors about Kevin Durant wanting to be in Boston, I think it was once again another situation where Jaylen Brown was saying, wow, Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens, these guys talked to Jason Tatum about what this could be. And once again, I feel secondary. I don't feel primary, which means he doesn't feel like the franchise holds him at the same level it holds Jason Tatum. And I do think that's going to come to a head. And I do inevitably think Jaylen Brown will end up on somebody else's team where it could be his team.
There's no organization that is all every single organization got an alpha dog. Okay, there are no two alpha dogs on the team. You think about it. It was if you go all the way back to the early Lakers with Magic Johnson, it was Kareem's team, and then eventually it became Magic's team immediately. And it was nobody else's, right? It just, you can't have two alpha dogs. You can have two great players, but the organization is going to speak to somebody. I mean, when you talk about the Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry. I mean, that's just the reality of it. The communication is going to go through Steph Curry, and then maybe there's a Clay and maybe there's a Draymond, but that communication is going through Steph Curry. The communication is going through LeBron James. I mean, that's probably the way that the Celtics brass feel about Jason Tatum, is that they probably look at Jason Tatum as a better player, better future, all of those sort of things more so than Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown, at the end of the day, he can't let his feelings get involved. You know that KD and JT have a great friendship and a working relationship off the court together in the off season. You know what that is. You know as a player. You're not oblivious to it. You don't have blinders on. So it is what it is at the end of the day, like he said. We'll find out when we get there. You can't let it affect you or hurt the way that you approach the game at all. You can't get your feelings caught up in it, man.
I don't think Jaylen Brown has I don't think he's let it affect his game at all. His game.
No, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying he cannot.
Hey, Jay, let me ask you this: how when Key says there's one guy the communication goes through, then sometimes, like a lot of times, it's definitive. Like there's LeBron, and then there's there's AD. There's AD. There's LeBron, and there's Kyrie. When it gets confusing on top, is it LeBron or Wade, right? They had to iron that out because they didn't win a championship that first year. Sometimes
D-Wade's team.
I meant D-Wade. Right, it was D-Wade's team early until D-Wade said, LeBron, you got to take the reins. Or that's how they won the championship, and they ironed that out. Kobe and Shaq was interesting. Started out Shaq and maybe ended up Kobe, right? And that's why Shaq got moved. But those guys were basically 1 and 1A. They were so close in terms of excellence. What is it? What's the gap between Tatum and Brown, do you think?
I don't think there's really a gap.
So it's like 1-1A, like Shaq
I know
and Kobe?
that Jason Tatum committed himself to the defensive end last year, but Jaylen Brown is all around. He's been more consistently a better defensive player. I think Jason Tatum has a little bit more upside offensively as relates to what that ceiling could be, but Jaylen Brown ain't that far off from that. So, like, the more complete player to me is Jaylen Brown.
So that's like.
So why did the Celtics value Jason Tatum more?
I'm not running the Celtics. I don't know. I'm not. I'm not there.
What I'm asking you,
I just don't think it's that. I don't think it's just basketball for Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
I think you guys missed one of the points I said earlier before. If you guys, there's an article in the New York Times about Jaylen Brown. I would suggest everybody to read the article. Right. There's a lot about Boston and about what Jaylen Brown wants to stand for as it relates to different things happening socially around this country. I don't think that is applauded through some venues in Boston. I don't think some people appreciate that. So I think
he has more.
Hold on, Key. I think there's a combination of that and feeling underappreciated as a player, kind of being secondary to Jason Tatum, that is culminating to Jaylen Brown. Be like, is this the place I really want to be at long term? Like, and I think it's making him lean in the opposite direction.
So he has more issues with the city than he does the organization.
I think it's a combination of both.
There's a little bit maybe of a Jaylen Brown thinking like, look, I take this secondary role supposedly in people's minds in the organization.
I think if you were to
ask,
I think if you were to ask a poll,
yeah,
who do you think is a better player overall? Jaylen Brown. I think it would be interesting to see what the results of that would be.
But he's usually not in the, like Tatum is in the MVP conversation to start the year, stuff like that. Not Jaylen Brown.
He was this year.
Yeah, not Jaylen Brown though.
Yeah. But you watch Boston games, man, like, Jaylen Brown is taking the other team's best player a lot of the time.
Jaylen Brown was good
in the playoffs. He's doing a lot of the dirty work, and he's also scoring, like, there are multiple games where he's at 40-plus points.
So the first thing is maybe a misevaluation or mistreatment of Brown in terms of his hierarchy on the team. Rather than being treated like, fine, you're 1A, he's being treated like 2. Like, he's being treated like he's clearly a notch below, even though he's not. Then the second thing is Boston.
But he might be to them.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's the disconnect.
To them. Like I said before, every team has a top dog. Mm-hmm. And then everybody else it trickled down from there. That's why I say he's too good of a player to let his feelings get involved like that.
Yeah, but that's the disconnect, Key. It's not their treatment of him is not reflecting, in fact, how close it is, I think, is that's one problem. The second problem is he feels the city of Boston has an element that is hostile toward him.
Well, he wouldn't be the first.
That's what I'm saying.
He wouldn't be the first professional athlete that's either played in the city or visited the city that feel that way. And people at Boston can surely say that's not true, but this keeps coming out over and over and over again. So it's got to be some truth to it.
You think you get an injury-prone AD at this point in his career? You think that's enough for Jaylen Brown in his prime?
4 years ago, the Celtics would have did that.
Right.
Or when was it? Was it 4 years ago he came to LA? 4, right? Yeah, 4.
I mean, I look at it. Yeah.
They would have did it 4 years ago.
I look at the situation more like Chicago. Like, what do you do with Zach LaVine? DeMar DeRozan really answer? Like, I see Jaylen Brown like more of Chicago, that being a fit. Like, I don't know. Like,
the other thing, if you look at Mikal Bridges, what that shows
I'll tell you the missing link. I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way Jaylen Brown can get on the Memphis Grizzlies. Ooh. If the Grizzlies found a way to get Jaylen Brown, like, there would be no more questions about who, like, depending upon who they had to give up. You want to give up Bane? You want to give up Dillon Brooks?
But they're gonna have to give up a lot, though.
Yeah, and picks. If they got collateral, I'll give up picks. Like,
I'm just saying bodies, though. They probably gonna have to give up bodies.
Yeah, but I would try to give up more picks than bodies, right? But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we've always talked about the Grizz not having that. Like, they had it with Andre Iguodala, but he was older, right? They didn't want that. Like, Danny Green tried it, but he wasn't the right fit.
They need
a lockdown wing defender who's been through the gauntlet before, who matches that personality.
But Jay, the reason I bring up Mikal Bridges is there are some guys sometimes on some teams who are doing a role successfully but are capable of more. And the teams that trade for those guys, right, you got maybe not a Jaylen Brown, but something like it on the cheap. If you can, is there anyone like that you look around the league and you see that guy could do something like that? He's being underused there.
Like a two-way guard?
Yeah. Because that's Bridges.
For what team? Like, where am I putting him?
Well,
what fit?
In this case, someone's proposing a trade for the Lakers.
I'm not sure like another two. Like I'd rather see Bron play with a Bradley Beal.
Oh well, yeah, that's not an under
No, I know it's not. Like I'm saying, like they're gonna have the cap space if you're not keeping AD. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.